We're here at Leap 2024, and I have the pleasure to be with my great friend, Jimi Daodu. And Jimmy, we met last Leap,
Absolutely.
and I really want to have this conversation. We had a sidebar conversation in last year, and over the last year, I've been watching some of the things you've been doing as a great leader in this space. You know, artificial intelligence,
I'll take that.
metaverse, absolutely. And I really wanted to first for you to introduce yourself and
Okay.
what your company is doing,
Okay.
and then just to delve into some of this space and what we're seeing and your leadership and some of the work you're seeing coming from there. But first, let the audience know who you are and what your organization does.
So I'm Jimi Daodu. I'm Nigerian British. Moved to the UAE as a expansion of my company Volt Hill. A background in computer science and masters in advanced computing. And as a 2 months ago, started a PhD in AI.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's creating that wealth of knowledge to keep giving back and, be knowledgeable enough to disperse that information and wealth of knowledge. My business, Voltil, it's a tech startup. We originally started with immersive technology. We've put that back into the strategy, but now we're solving customer service problems and looking at that for telecommunication as a focus point. So, when you have a challenge with roaming or data, and you pick up the phone to call the customer service agent, you wait for like 2-3 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes depending on your provider. We're looking at using AI to bring that down to seconds and increase customer engagement, create a new channel of sales, and reduce operational costs. These are buzzwords and interest for business leaders and decision makers.
And that's really interesting because we've heard the growth of AI and we've heard various different components. You've got the generative AI, the conversation
Yep.
AI, etc. But what I'm really listening in terms of what you're stating is bringing the value
Correct.
to the business.
Correct.
So talk about it from your customer standpoint. What are some of the values they're thinking to see when you are now with them in terms of creating that value on AI?
Right. So what we're also looking at is specifically around language translations in Africa, right? So I being Nigerian, if I take, the three main or the three most populous languages in Nigeria, Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba. One of our customers we're working with is MTN Nigeria, 100 million users. How do I, as a customer of MTN, relate a query in one of the languages and get a response back in that language, rather than using English to communicate? Now, not everyone is English speaking in a country with a population of, 250 million people. So again, it's how do we start to make that inclusivity and diversity within the company through MTN's proposition and offering for customer service.
And you mentioned, one of the things we both have, we're Nigerian, even though my accent is a bit different when Nigerian. But I remember when I was very young, living in Nigeria, they would say the news in those three languages. I don't know, you probably remember that in
Absolutely,
English,
NTA.
right? NTA, National Television Authority.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
of course, yeah. So, but it's really interesting now. And I just want to pivot in there because Africa is that continent
Yeah.
that has a young, talented group
Yeah.
of people. And so was it the fact that you were from Nigeria that positioned you to go there, or was it the opportunity you found from a social economics that said that this is the area I need to go there? How did that morph into working with the organization in Nigeria you mentioned, or was it relationships? Sure, curious to hear.
I think it was God and timing.
Oh,
I kid you not, because we set up in the UK at first, and the expansion came, and it was more around, okay, let's look at strategic regions for our growth. Obviously, being Nigerian, it was easy, and I go back to Nigeria once or twice a year. So it was easy to understand, how the market works, the dynamics in the government, the dynamics in the business settings. And we wanted to also give back to the economy by hiring. So I'm from Babcock University, and I sponsor an award yearly where I award a cash prize and a plaque to the three best graduating students of computer science, computer tech, and computer information system. And what I did in the last 3 years is hire one of those guys into the organization. So again, with that mindset of giving back, I looked at it to say, hey, we could start to nurture talent in Nigeria and Africa through setting up a legal entity of Voltil in Nigeria. And then as we did that, we started partnering and getting to understand the ecosystem. Introductions were made, and that was how we landed some of the clients we have in Nigeria. And again, like you rightly said, being Nigerian makes it easy to associate to say, hey, he's one of ours, and for me, it's that pride and sense of not necessarily just being Nigerian and African, but the ability to give back, the ability to improve organizational cultures, organizational support, and all of that good stuff.
Which links into the community. And I know that in reading your website, there is a very human aspect
Yes.
into how you're trying to look at AI, the metaverse, and some of these aspects. So tell me where that sort of human aspect has shaped you to, because often, we're in a big conference here, Leap, and it's tech, which is important.
Yeah.
But there is, we're doing this for a purpose.
Absolutely.
So tell me how the human aspect for you in the way that you are focused in your branding, how did that come about? Was that organic, or is this something you've always had where you felt that you're helping companies, but ultimately you're trying to help humans?
Absolutely. So I guess it goes back to my time at Barclays, right, where we're building products, and I was leading the divestment between Barclays and APSA, and for some reason I was leading the transformation team of that, right? And part of that transformation, we had to lay off folks, right? And that is tough, especially when you understand the numbers and the people that are going to be exited from the business. And being human, these are people, some of the people that I have actually worked with, we've shared time in Johannesburg together, I've met some of their families and all of that. And for me, I just felt like, wow, this feels strange. But again, it's a big corporate, decisions need to be made. Taking those lessons and those emotions, into Voltil, building my own company, I looked at it to say, hey, how do we bring some of those emotions, empathy, resilience, togetherness, community, teamwork, into driving the products we build, and not just technology? How to create a movement, a platform, a community around this. And then while we were strategizing on the birth of Voltil, we looked at human-centricity. We took 7 out of 13 basic human instincts, things that make you and I human, things like creativity, idealism, romance, play. And we said, hey, rather than build technology to solve just the problem, let's put in the human-centric elements in it. And that's how we started shaping our values with those human-centric elements to build this core proposition of a product called Hilda.
Wow, that's excellent. And, you're now based in Dubai.
Correct.
So if you were having a young Nigerian entrepreneur or a young person who was saying this, that, Jimmy, how do I start off? What are some of the challenges or the lessons learned in building a business, your years of experience, an idea? What were sort of 2 or 3 things that you would say that you would advise them to say that these are aspects you need to really think about?
I'll say don't. Stick to your 9 to 5.
Stick to your 9. Wow.
Get a 9 to 5.
Yes.
I kid you not, because it's tough.
Yes.
Now, let's just compare the difference practically, right? Your 9 to 5, if you work as a developer, your main challenge is just being told what to develop. You're not thinking of how to get paid HR. You're not thinking of marketing and product marketing. You're not thinking about legal, any regulations. You're not thinking about all of that. Switch to an entrepreneur, switch to owning your business. You turn from being a developer to having all of those problems.
You are the business.
You are the business. you need to, you have the added pressure of thinking of making sure your employees are paid, right? But let's come back to seriousness, right? If you do decide to switch, right, and move, I think the very first thing is to establish who is going to pay for your product, your customer base. Start speaking to customers. Identify your customer segment. If you're trying to build and solve a problem for 1 billion users, solve for one person first. It could be your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your coworker, whoever it is. Build for one person. Test it. Will they pay for that product? And then start to scale up from there. Now, that was a challenge I made when I started, because I looked at Amazon, Jeff Bezos, and I was like, hey, they do everything. Let's do everything, But guess what? They started from a bookshop. and then scaled into AWS and all the products they have today. So start small. The pressure reduces when you start small. You establish a niche. You become a voice in your sector or your industry. You start having meaningful relationship with your customers and clients. And then before you know it, based on their requirements and your challenge and their challenges, you're able to shape up your product to start solving more of that. You take that product, you go to their competition. You take that product to go to a different industry and sector, and you start to scale up from there. So I'd say the first thing is the customer and the client. And most importantly, the next thing is mental state, mental health. Being an entrepreneur, you have a whole lot of emotions, especially if you're an entrepreneur that doesn't have a family, or an entrepreneur that has a family, or an entrepreneur that has a young family. You have different stages of pressure.
Right.
Your wife wants you to do this, your kids want you to do this, your co-workers want this, you want this. You're given a lot. So, if it's therapy, if it's meditation, if it's finding a group of co-founders finding a group of founders within your same niche to rub ideas and speak about challenges, you need that mental support. And a lot of founders, again, a lot of African founders, because again, therapy can be seen as a taboo in Africa. And I feel like we need to talk more about these things and enlighten people to say, hey, it's all right to pick up the phone and say, Lawrence, I'm struggling with this.
Yes.
Can I get 20 minutes of your time?
Yes.
You've gone through transformation in the private sector. I'm struggling with this. I have these challenges. I just need to speak to someone about it. So I think that is very important in the entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, that's excellent. I've taken some takeaways. Make sure you focus in terms of what the customer is telling you. The customer in some way will help drive how you refine your products.
Correct.
That's what I've heard. And an often not spoken thing is the mental health. And we've
Yes.
seen that a lot through the pandemic in terms of mental health. And then essentially that will give you a support system.
Yeah.
And that then leads into why the human task has
Hey,
really
look at
built
that.
from.
You connected the dots on this.
Absolutely. Now we get that. And you don't often hear from that from tech leaders.
Yeah.
You're a tech leader, you're in a tech space, very competitive, but you're coming and saying that the human aspects is the mental health.
Yeah. Yeah.
The mental health actually makes you a better entrepreneur
Yeah.
because you care about people
Yeah.
in there. So, Jimmy, thank you so much for
Thank
this.
you.
This has been a wonderful conversation.
I appreciate
Let's keep it going. And it's great to see you back in Riyadh.
Same here. Same here. Yeah.
And I will continue following you and being one of your biggest champions in there because
Hey, I appreciate
we
it.
aspire to look at there because the entrepreneur life is not easy, as you said. But anytime there is somebody who is achieving, we need to be able to be the cheerleaders, supporting and making sure that we continue to advocate your voice. So thank you for what
appreciate
you're
it.
doing in this space.
Thank you.
And thank you for the opportunity to have a conversation with Lawrence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Thank you very
so
much.
much.